Hello everyone, my name is Jackson Ponsler and this is another 5-minute lesson. Today I'll be talking about Dr. Vivek's machine learning class that I took yesterday on September 1st. And what he taught in machine learning is about decision trees. And what decision trees are is, let's say you had two sets of data. In this case I have shapes and colors. How can a computer find a good and quick way to represent this? And what he covered in that lecture was about decision trees. How decision trees works is it looks for characteristics and then asks questions to sort out which is which. This is very simple, kind of like 20 questions, so to speak. So if I had these two sets, and if I was to start sorting, my first question would be, what's the shape? And so after I ask that question, I've got options. I've got triangles, I've got squares, I've got, basically, this is a bad example because very simply I can ask what is the shape, and if it's a triangle, it's in group A, and everything else is B. So we're going to quickly adjust this, and we're going to see what happens. We're going to instead put, well, just to show how it was supposed to be. So we'll go with shape again. So if it's a triangle, we know it's supposed to be in group A. And if it's a square, circle, or pentagon, then they would be group B's. This seems rather trivial, but if we were to add in a third option, where let's say I had squares and only black squares, then what would happen here is if I go down here to shape, I would ask color, meaning what color is it? If it's black, then I know it belongs to group C. And if it was blue or green, then I know that they belong to group B. And this is simply how you can use a decision tree to take data sets and basically map them. So instead of having, if we had many sets of this with many different triangles and colors and shapes, this is a simple structure that the computer can use and learn in order to sort the different variables. I'll be very brief on this because I have a little bit more time and I think you guys are awesome. So another thing that Professor Vivek talked about during this case was trying to figure out how you can choose which feature or which feature should be the one to ask. So I use shapes since they're with shapes or colors. And I suggest you see this on his website. Just look up Vivek, V-I-V-E-K, at Google, and you will see his course website, and you can look up his machine learning. He has great notes. And what he basically does is he looks at the heuristics of this. And what heuristics are is basically it says, how much information do I learn by sorting a certain way? With this, it's kind of intuitive. If we sort by shape, we can already see we separate out A. So we know we learn a lot already by doing that. So just intuitively, we can see by separating shapes before colors, we learn more. You can also argue that we can do black because, we separate that entirely. But he goes through the math in his website. And the basic understanding is you look on how much information you gain by isolating one or the other. And the more likely you have of eliminating something, it will show less chaos in the system. And I know that sounds really weird, but that's just on his notes. So if you were to do the math and look at if you remove a certain item, it will give you a number. You want the largest number, meaning the information learned. And from there, you can set it out. So if you did the math, you would actually get shapes. But let's say I had more than just shapes here. Let's say each one of them had a letter, like B, C, A, B, so on and so forth. Then you would look at the math again and see, okay, which one was the clarifying factor, and you would then say, oh, I'm not going to go through the example, but it'd be like, oh, then afterwards we would go with color. And then we would go by letter. I know this was rather brief, but I'm going through this master's course, and maybe I'll come back and do another video on it. But this is just the basics, and if nothing else, remember that decision tree we talked about for the first half of this video. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a good day.